New Year's Eve, 1986, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. A warm breeze off the Atlantic, a hard blue sky beginning to soften toward evening, and the DuPont Plaza Hotel rising over the waterfront like a concrete promise of glamour. Inside, more than 400 guest rooms and a bustling casino pulsed with anticipation for the night ahead. Countdowns, confetti, midnight kisses, and clean slate resolutions. No one imagined that before midnight, the building would be a blackened shell against an orange sky, its neon dead, its name suddenly synonymous with one of the deadliest hotel fires in modern history. It was late afternoon, around 3:30 p.m., when most guests were just beginning to think about evening. The lobby marble reflected chandeliers and the shine of luggage wheels. The air was cooled just enough to feel expensive, carrying a mix of perfume, cigarette smoke, and the faint clink of glass from the bar. Tour groups clustered near the front desk. A pair of honeymooners drifted through the lobby toward the elevators, arms linked, laughing about whether to try the casino before dinner. A middle-aged salesman, tie loosened, sat in an armchair going over a year's worth of deals on a legal pad, promising himself that next year would be different. On the guest floors, the hotel moved in that lazy pre-party rhythm unique to New Year's Eve. A hairdryer whined behind one door. Behind another, a TV blared music videos as someone tried on outfits and rejected them in turn. A longtime regular stepped onto his balcony with a drink to admire the familiar view, the pool below, the sea beyond, the city already humming toward the night. In hallways, bellmen pushed carts piled with garment bags and suitcases, nodding at each other as they passed. There was still plenty of time. Midnight felt a long way off. Downstairs, the casino might as well have already been midnight. Time didn't exist there, and that was the point. No windows, low ceilings, flattering light. Slot machines chimed and flashed in overlapping rhythms. Dealers in vests and bow ties called out bets with practiced calm. The air was heavy with smoke and the sweet burn of mixed drinks. A tour group from the mainland, name tags still pinned to shirts, clustered around a roulette table. An older man in a sport coat sat alone at a blackjack table, tapping his fingers on the felt between hands. A woman traveling by herself fed coins into a slot machine with mechanical patience, the ritual filling a holiday she didn't want to spend alone. Behind the public face of the hotel, in the back-of-house corridors and service spaces guests rarely saw, the atmosphere was different. The floors were scuffed linoleum instead of polished stone. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The air smelled of cleaning chemicals, coffee left too long on a warmer, and stale cigarette smoke. In these spaces, on that particular day, something else hung in the air: anger. For months, a labor dispute had simmered. Arguments over wages and working conditions, stalled negotiations, union meetings that ended with more frustration than progress. On New Year's Eve, 3 disgruntled employees moved through those corridors with a plan born of resentment and recklessness. Near the South Ballroom, an unlocked storage room waited quietly in the service maze. Inside, rows of banquet chairs were stacked in tight grids, their synthetic foam cushions pressed together. Cardboard boxes slumped on metal shelving, decorations for future events, disposable tableware, paper banners waiting for some later celebration. Rolls of carpet leaned against a wall, extra linens filled plastic-wrapped bundles. It was an ordinary room, cluttered, functional, unremarkable. It had also been allowed to become something else, a dense reservoir of combustible material sitting behind an unlocked door in a hotel that would soon be full. Sometime around mid-afternoon, in that storage space, fire began. It was not an accident. Later investigations and a criminal trial would determine that 3 employees, angry over the labor dispute, had deliberately set the blaze. In the moment, there was only a small flame introduced to furniture and packing materials that had no business being stored without protection in a room with no automatic sprinklers. Foam cushions caught, not just burning, but melting and dripping, carrying fire downward even as it climbed. Cardboard boxes flared and collapsed into embers. Rolled carpet smoldered, then ignited along its length like a slow, brutal fuse. Heat built quickly in the confined space, feeding on everything the room held. Wooden chair frames, varnished for shine, gave themselves to flame. Paper decorations flashed and vanished. Smoke pooled against the ceiling, turning from gray to thick, suffocating black, pressing outward through every seam and gap. There was no attendant there to see the moment when the fire shifted from containable to uncontrollable. Within minutes, the storage room had become a furnace. Within minutes more, the fire had found the ballroom. The South Ballroom, set for a New Year's party, became the fire's next stage. Tables draped in cloth, glittering centerpieces, balloon arches, and a welcome 1987 banner hanging near the ceiling. All the props for celebration turned to fuel. Smoke slipped under double doors and spread across the empty room's ceiling. Then the doors themselves began to fail, their surfaces blistering and blackening. When they finally gave way, fire poured into the ballroom, racing across decorations and synthetic fabrics. Tablecloths ignited in waves. The banner sagged, blackened, and fell in burning pieces. Fire rolled along the ceiling faster than a person could run. As temperatures inside soared, the ballroom's exterior windows finally surrendered. Glass shattered outward in succession, sending shards raining onto terraces and walkways below. The sudden rush of fresh air into the superheated room turned the fire into something close to an explosion of flame, punching out of the openings and climbing the outside walls. Guests on nearby balconies heard the cracks, saw the flames, and stepped to their railings in disbelief, watching smoke pour from a room that, hours from now, had been meant for dancing. Meanwhile, the hotel's hidden mechanical lungs kept working as if nothing had changed. Fans and ductwork, designed to pull warm air out and push cool air in, began drawing in smoke from the burning ballroom. Instead of comfort, the system now moved hot, toxic gases through shafts and plenums, delivering them into corridors, lobbies, and critically, the casino below. The very system that made the building livable became a distribution network for poison. It did not announce itself as catastrophe, not at first. A guest stepping out of an elevator sniffed and frowned. Something in the air smelled acrid, like plastic on a hot stove. A faint haze appeared near a ceiling vent in a corridor. Someone noticed, watched it for a moment, then decided it was probably nothing. At the front desk, a guest mentioned that the air conditioning smelled funny. The clerk promised to call maintenance. Somewhere overhead, alarms began to detect heat and smoke, but not everywhere and not quickly enough. In the casino, the change came suddenly. One moment the air was simply thick with tobacco smoke and humidity. The next, darker smoke began to push from overhead grills and seams, rolling outward in visible waves. It flowed along the ceiling, then descended, turning the room's carefully controlled twilight into a murky, shifting dusk. Players and dealers coughed, blinked, looked around. For a few seconds, the sounds of the casino, electronic jingles, recorded fanfares, the rhythmic clatter of coins, continued over the rising murmur of concern. Then the power began to fail. Lights flickered, machines froze mid-game, and the electronic chimes died, leaving only human noise, shouts, coughs, the scrape of chairs. The casino had been designed to keep people inside. Its maze-like layout, meandering aisles, and limited sightlines, effective tools for encouraging play and discouraging awareness of exits, now turned on the people they had served so well. When smoke thickened and visibility dropped, most patrons did what people always do. They tried to leave the way they had come in. Bodies surged toward the familiar main entrance, quickly overwhelming doors sized for steady two-way traffic, not a panicked one-way rush. At some side exits, doors were locked or opened inward, jamming under the weight of the crowd. People at the back pushed, people at the front had nowhere to go. Within minutes, the casino became the deadliest space in the building. Some patrons were overcome where they stood, collapsing near tables and slot banks as heat and smoke intensified. Others died in clumps near exits, trapped by a combination of poor design and panic, stacked against doors that would not open fast enough or at all. By the time the fire was out, 84 bodies would be found in the casino alone, most of the total dead, concentrated in a single, flawed room. In other places in the hotel, corridors filled with smoke, lights dimmed and failed, and alarms, when they did sound, often came too late to offer clear guidance. Some guests opened their doors, saw the thick gray outside, and tried to make their way to stairwells, wrapping cloths around their faces. Others did the opposite,
Seeing the smoke, they retreated into their rooms, stuffed towels along the bottoms of doors, and hoped their walls would hold. A few made it to balconies, trading the threat of smoke inside for the thin, exposed concrete ledges high above the ground.
The hotel's main interior stairway, adequate for routine use in minor emergencies, was quickly stressed beyond its limits. People from multiple floors converged on it at once, some descending into worsening conditions, others pushed back by the intensity of smoke coming up from below. The stairwell did what open vertical shafts do in fires. It helped draw smoke and heat upward through the building. Firefighters later described finding many in the stairwells and corridors that had been overcome by the smoke and required assistance. Outside, the first fire engines arrived within minutes of the alarm being raised. Crews saw heavy smoke pouring from lower levels and flames venting from the ballroom windows. They knew instantly that the situation was catastrophic, a fully involved fire in an occupied high-rise hotel with an active casino and hundreds of guests inside. Hoses were laid, ladders raised as far as they would go. Firefighters pulled on breathing apparatus and disappeared into doorways belching heat and smoke. Inside, they found chaos in near zero visibility. Crawling along carpets that hours earlier had muffled high heels and rolling luggage, they searched rooms by feel, calling out, listening for coughs and cries. They carried or led survivors out of smoke-filled corridors and down stairwells that had become treacherous, then turned back in for more. In the casino and adjacent areas, they encountered the worst. Rows and clusters of bodies, many burned beyond recognition, lying near tables, slots, and exits that had failed them. In lobbies and elevators and at an outdoor bar near the pool, they found additional victims, smaller in number but part of the same terrible picture. By early evening, the main body of the fire was under control. The DuPont Plaza, once advertised as a luxury destination with a lively gaming floor and New Year's packages, stood gutted and smoking. The casino interior was destroyed. The South Ballroom was a burned-out shell. Windows were blown out or blackened. Water and debris filled corridors and stairwells. On the pavement outside, bodies lay in rows under sheets while officials began the grim work of counting, identifying, and notifying. By the time the tally stabilized, at least 96 people were known to be dead. Some accounts would later place the final number at 97 or 98, depending on how indirect deaths were counted. Most of the victims were casino patrons or staff, caught in the concentrated horror of that space. But the ages, occupations, and hometowns varied. Tourists and locals, professionals and retirees, but their final experience shared a common pattern. They had trusted a building that, under extreme conditions, failed in nearly every way it could fail. Across San Juan and far beyond, New Year's Eve celebrations went on that night, but they were muted. Television broadcasts cut between scenes of Times Square and live images of the burning hotel. Radio stations dedicated countdowns to the victims. For thousands of families and friends, the turn of the year became forever linked not with champagne and resolutions, but with smoke, sirens, and phone calls that never came. The neon that once promised luxury and casino flickered over a blackened carcass of a building, and in the ruins of the South Ballroom, fragments of the Welcome 1987 banner lay soaked and charred in the ash. In the weeks that followed, investigators combed through the remains with notebooks, cameras, and measuring tapes. They traced the fire's origin to the ballroom storage area. They documented the lack of sprinklers in the casino and ballroom, the combustible furnishings, the vulnerable HVAC and smoke control systems, the inadequate and sometimes locked exits, the inward opening doors that had jammed in the crush. They confirmed what survivors already knew instinctively. 3 men's decision to strike a match had started the fire, but it was the building's design, its missing protections, and the way it was allowed to operate that turned that act into a mass casualty disaster. The hotel that promised celebration instead delivered a hard lesson, one written in engineering reports, fire codes, and the memories of those who escaped and those who waited outside. The DuPont Plaza would never reopen. Its site would eventually be cleared, redeveloped, folded back into the fabric of the city. But the fire that began on that bright afternoon and raged into dusk did not disappear.
It lives on in the rules that now govern hotels and casinos, in training manuals and inspection checklists, and in the quiet, personal New Year's rituals of people who remember where they were the night a hotel in San Juan burned and nearly 100 lives ended before the new year arrived.
The DuPont Plaza disaster remains one of the clearest examples of how tragedy rarely stems from a single cause. The arson ignited the flames, but a sequence of design flaws, code gaps, and operational failures allowed the fire to spread, turn lethal, and trap nearly 100 people within minutes. Its aftermath reshaped hotel safety standards worldwide and remains a cautionary study in how engineering, regulation, and human decisions can interact under the worst possible conditions. The hidden chain of failure. When investigators from the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, and local authorities examined the site in early 1987, they found that no single failure explained the immense loss of life. The disaster was the product of interdependent weaknesses, a hotel designed and operated to maximize comfort and profit, not survival under duress. The origin point: an unlocked storage room. The fire began in an unsecured storage area adjacent to the South Ballroom, an ordinary service space never meant to contain large amounts of combustible material. It held foam-cushioned chairs, boxed decorations, and rolled carpets. The door was left unlocked and unmonitored, and the room had no sprinklers or fire-resistant barriers. In short, the perfect environment for a fast-developing fire. The synthetic materials released immense heat and toxic gases within minutes. Had that room been equipped with an automatic sprinkler system or even a detection alarm tied to a security panel, the initial blaze could have been contained, or at least slowed before it reached the ballroom. The ballroom and HVAC system. Once the fire entered the ballroom, it intensified rapidly. The high ceilings, decorated fabrics, and absence of sprinklers turned it into a self-ventilating furnace. Windows failed, oxygen flooded in, and flames roared outward. A more insidious problem then took over: the hotel's mechanical ventilation. The air conditioning and smoke eater systems, meant to circulate and purify casino air, continued running long after ignition. Instead of clearing smoke, they drew it into air return ducts and redistributed it throughout the building. These fans effectively moved hot, toxic gases into corridors, guest floors, and the casino. In modern building codes, mechanical ventilation systems in public assembly spaces must automatically shut down during fire alarms and include barriers or smoke dampers to isolate fire zones. Neither requirement existed at the DuPont Plaza. The casino layout and exits. The casino was the heart of the tragedy. Its layout prioritized revenue and ambiance over safety. The gambling floor lacked windows or independent ventilation. Its exits were minimal, ill-placed, and poorly marked. A few secondary doors opened inward, an obsolete design that jammed instantly when people pushed against them in panic. Others were locked to prevent unmonitored entry from the street. Patrons unfamiliar with the space naturally ran toward the main entrance the same way they had entered, and the crush there became deadly. Afterward, engineers confirmed that few patrons died from direct burns. Most succumbed to toxic smoke, heat, and crowd compression near that choke point. No sprinklers, no modern fire detection. The DuPont Plaza had limited fire protection. There were manual extinguishers and some alarms, but no comprehensive sprinkler system covering guest corridors, storage rooms, or the casino. At the time, local codes did not require full coverage in existing hotels, and management had never retrofitted the building. When smoke detectors finally tripped, they did so unevenly, some zones never registering the fire. Guests described hearing no alert until thick smoke had already reached upper floors. According to NFPA analysis, that delay cost dozens of lives. The lessons recorded and enforced. The DuPont Plaza fire served as a sobering case study for fire protection engineers, safety regulators, and the hotel industry. Within a few years, its lessons were embedded into American and international fire and building codes. Sprinkler systems and detection networks. One of the most direct outcomes was a widespread push for automatic sprinkler retrofits in hotels and casinos. The Uniform Fire Code and NFPA 13 now require high-rise hotels to include sprinklers in guest rooms, corridors, storage areas, and any space containing combustible furnishings. Modern systems activate locally but also trigger alarms building-wide, while simultaneously cutting power to ventilation fans and turning on smoke control systems designed to exhaust, not distribute smoke. Ventilation system controls. HVAC and smoke eater designs have since evolved under NFPA 90A and 92 standards. Today, air handlers must be linked to fire detection panels and shut down automatically in affected zones. Smoke dampers close to prevent the flow of contaminated air, and return ducts are equipped with detectors that sense and isolate fire odors, mitigating the kind of secondary spread that doomed the DuPont Plaza Casino. Egress design and signage. Casino and hotel floor plans now undergo explicit life safety review before licensing. Exits must open outward, remain unlocked from within, and be clearly illuminated with independent power supplies. Interior design that intentionally conceals exits for aesthetic or commercial reasons is prohibited. Crowd flow modeling, once a novelty, is now part of the design process. Engineers simulate panicked evacuation using computational models to identify choke points well before construction. Storage and material safety. The neglected storage room became a symbol of preventable oversight. New standards under NFPA 101 Life Safety Code and the International Fire Code specify that any storage of combustible materials near assembly spaces must be enclosed in fire-rated construction with clear access controls. Furniture manufacturing has changed since 1980s. Many foams and synthetic textiles are treated to resist open flame ignition and reduce smoke toxicity, standards shaped in part by research following DuPont Plaza. Staff training and emergency planning. Fire protection is now as procedural as it is technical. Hotels are required to conduct regular fire drills for staff and maintain clear evacuation plans approved by local fire marshals. Emergency responders must have immediate access to floor plans and mechanical system layouts. These measures ensure that if ignition occurs, trained staff initiate early evacuations and isolation steps instead of waiting for alarms that might come too late. If it happened today, a fire identical in cause, a deliberate act in a hotel storage room, would still be serious, but it would almost certainly not produce the same mass fatality. Sprinklers would activate within seconds, flooding the origin point and containing the fire to a small zone. The HVAC system would cut off automatically. Alarms would sound throughout the building. Smoke control fans would help vent toxic gases upward and outward, not move them into public areas. Guests in the casino would encounter brightly lit exit signs, doors swinging outward, and staff members already guiding them toward safe routes. Stairwells are now designed with pressurization systems to keep escape routes clear of smoke, a requirement now standard in large hotels. While no system can make a building completely immune to disaster, the layered defenses introduced after 1986 have transformed survivability. The same conditions, locked or inward opening doors, unprotected ceilings, unmonitored mechanical systems, that once made DuPont Plaza a death trap are no longer permissible anywhere in modern hospitality construction. The lasting legacy. The DuPont Plaza fire sits beside tragedies such as the MGM Grand, 1980, and Las Vegas Hilton, 1981, as catalysts for reform. Collectively, these incidents reshaped building codes across North America and influenced international hotel design. In Puerto Rico, the fire prompted sweeping amendments to local regulation, mandatory sprinklers for new hotels, enforced maintenance inspections, and standardized evacuation protocols. On the U.S. mainland, major hotel chains imposed internal safety audits stricter than local codes required, recognizing that public trust and corporate survival depended on visible commitment to safety. Today, the story is not just about fire, it is about accountability. Each investigation, lawsuit, and regulation that followed the DuPont Plaza tragedy translated individual loss into systemic change. The guests who died that afternoon and evening were victims not only of crime, but of complacency, a belief that convenience and luxury were enough. Modern hotels now embody the opposite principle, designed for worst cases, and that reversal is one of the disaster's enduring lessons. What began as an act of revenge became a turning point in fire safety and hotel engineering. The DuPont Plaza blaze consumed not only a building, but an entire era's complacency about what luxury meant. In its aftermath, engineers, lawmakers, and architects spent years rebuilding the safety net the hotel had lacked. But the physical site itself, the patch of land along the San Juan Condado waterfront, underwent its own transformation. For years after the fire, the blackened husk of the DuPont Plaza stood as a reminder of what had happened there. The wreckage was cleared in 1987, and for some time the lot remained a scar on the skyline, its future uncertain as legal cases and rebuilding plans unfolded. Eventually, new construction began, a complete redevelopment of the property that removed every trace of the old structure. By the mid-1990s, the site reopened as the San Juan Marriott and Stellaris Casino, a modern complex built to drastically higher fire and life safety standards. The new hotel included full sprinkler coverage, compartmentalized mechanical systems with automatic fire dampers, multiple pressurized stair towers, and redundant evacuation routes. Every principle learned in part from the disaster that had preceded it. Today, in 2025, the building is a thriving beachfront resort once again, its glass facade reflecting the same Atlantic sunsets that shone on the DuPont Plaza decades ago. Guests now stroll across polished marble floors under sprinkler heads so subtle they barely notice them. The casino still hums beneath chandeliers, but discreet smoke detectors and emergency signs stand watch overhead. The redesign was deliberate, a luxury experience built on humility, an acknowledgement that beauty and safety are inseparable. For locals, especially those who remember the fire, the new hotel exists as both renewal and elegy. The physical scars have faded, but each New Year's Eve, many residents still pause as midnight approaches and see in the glittering facade a memory behind the glass, the year when celebration turned to catastrophe, and the lessons that continue to shape every high-rise built since. The Atlantic breeze, the lights, and even the sound of slot machines remain the same, but the systems hidden above the ceiling, behind the walls, and beneath the floor tell a different story.
For more videos like this one, showing major engineering disasters that have occurred, the lessons they have taught us, and changes that make them less likely to happen again, please consider subscribing to this channel.